First play of the game, we're going blind pig.
We're going to go blind pig.
Blind pig, yeah.
So I'm also a big fan of the blind pig.
Hello and welcome to the Blind Pig podcast. Super League basketball is finally at that meaty end of the season as we rush towards the playoffs. And the week before international break did not disappoint with huge storylines, massive stat lines, and absolutely unbelievable plays and great moments. Starting off in the capital, where the big weekend winner has to be the London Lions. Without head coach Talvitas Safonis, assistant coach VP stepped up and picked up two big wins for the Lions. First off, a comfortable 95-78 win over the Leicester Riders, where they smothered the Riders on defence and particularly keyed in on Raekwon Battle and held him to basically no points at all in the first half. And then a come-from-behind victory against Manchester Basketball, which was an early preview for the SLB Cup Finals, which we played in the AO Arena on March 22nd. The latter really felt like a heavyweight matchup, and two clubs, they were both came up with really clever defensive schemes to help manage the other team's offensive threats. The shot making, though, also stepped up a huge amount, and that's reflected in the field goal percentage. Manchester shooting 70% inside the arc, London 55% from inside the arc. Shavar Reynolds had some absolute insane efficiency, 8 for 10 in this game, and Charlie Brown Jr. wasn't far behind with 7 for 10 shooting. Manchester, on the other hand, was cutting backdoor and getting great looks at the rim. There was an insane amount and it contributed hugely to their field goal percentage. But it was a 13-1 run in the fourth quarter that ultimately nudged London into the 82-74 win. The most impressive thing for me here for London is the intensity and just how much the players wanted this game. Check out this exchange late in the fourth quarter featuring Gabe Osaboyan and Dean Williams.
Williams has it, and Williams blocked by Osaboyan, gets the ball, but Williams, the hustle, the persistence under the basket. So, was that a technical foul?
That is just two guys going at it who want to win. It's the type of competitiveness that we want to see. These two teams match up again after international break at the Copper Box. So there's one last dress rehearsal before the SLB Cup. And hopefully we're going to have a fully healthy squad. For Manchester, during this matchup, they were without Kayam Cleary, who's a huge scoring piece for them, and also Kane Henry. And I think there are serious question marks and asterisks, and particularly his back has to be a concern now if he's going to come back and play this season. You know, how realistic is that? And for London, they were without a vital part of their backcourt in Tariq Phillips. London also made moves outside of the games this week to shore up their front court. And shout out to Prophecy Scout, who we teamed out to break the news of the Jordan Williams signing for the London Lions. Another reason why you should follow us on Instagram. It's a big time signing to shore up that front court. Jordan has experience playing across the BBL, playing in Worcester, Surrey, and in London itself before. And he was playing relatively well in Iceland before being derailed by injury. But I think really broadly, it talks a little bit more to what's happening to their roster. We kind of knew it already, but I think this really confirms that Ovi Soko will not return because of his injury. I still think that he has something to give to the game. I still think he can contribute as a leader, and when he plays really well. But I think it's okay at this stage in his career if he wants to start that transition into the figurehead for that franchise. And the sources I've been speaking to inside the Lions are also talking about Jonathan Williams III, who last played 6 weeks ago on January the 9th. As we understand it, his injury is significant, and the team is coming to a decision over international break if Jonathan Williams will continue to remain with the team or if he will rehab elsewhere. He was courtside for their game against the Leicester Riders, although not suited up for action. However, one thing that the London Lions have decided already is their remaining fixtures, where they've confirmed that they will play a further game, again against Surrey, where they will play at NCC. And they also confirmed that they will potentially play at Crystal Palace for their playoff semi-final should they progress to that stage. Personally, I would absolutely love to see a playoff game inside the Crystal Palace Arena. And for that team that represents the whole of London, you would still expect them to pack that place. And it's something that I find really uniquely interesting about this franchise is to have a max capacity sold out event and really what that would look like and how that would feel for the fan base. But London weren't the only winners of the weekend. The Newcastle Eagles finally broke a 9-game losing streak with a huge game for Sean Taylor. And it's key just to set context here because Manchester had absolutely dicked Newcastle just a couple of days earlier on the Wednesday. And Mark Stoessel shared his very honest and open thoughts about that loss and what he expected from his team.
Mark, it's obviously been a tough stretch. What do you need to do tonight to get some wins on the board?
I said to the team, I demand a response from them from Wednesday. I was exceptionally disappointed with their many areas of the game. I think that directly impact winning on Wednesday. But first and foremost, they got to fight. We got to understand where we are, and they got to fight. And then after that, we can start making sure that areas of the game that impact winning, rebounding, transition, turnovers, execution. But they got to fight. I think that's that. You know, I expect that. I think our fans expect that. Our club expects that. So, yeah, I think I demand a response in that area tonight.
Yeah, and Sean Taylor.
You always know where you stand with Mark Stoessel. And look, I didn't look in the first 5 minutes like Sean Taylor was going to have a particularly fantastic game or a career night. But over the next 3.5 quarters, he absolutely exploded. And he gave it to Surrey every which way. There were jelly lays and circus shots, filthy turnaround jumpers, and deep three balls. He only had 32 coming into the fourth, but made the most of absolutely every minute that he was on the court, pouring in points and ending up with 51 points, a franchise record and the most points scored in Super League basketball as it's known now. Should there be an asterisk? You know, was it a little bit of point farming in the fourth quarter? You know, there might potentially be a case. But with how depleted Newcastle is, and particularly their bench, I think it was fair game to leave him in there. And to be honest, I absolutely love to see it. It was also an important win for Newcastle as they look to keep their lead over Caledonia for that last playoff spot. Surrey will be really disappointed to have gone 0-2 this weekend, and particularly in this matchup with Newcastle, they didn't have anywhere near that same level of pop from their three guards in Lilly, Polite and Lawrence. Strange things happen, guys, in Virtu Motor Arena on a Friday night. But records were being broken all over the shop. The Cheshire Phoenix started their weekend by picking a close 95-94 win over the Bristol Flyers. And they may have expected it to be easy if their post on X is anything to go by. I'm looking at you, Tom. But it was some clutch play from Patrick Robinson and squeaky clean free throws from Frankie Policelli that allowed them to put this one away. And even though everyone may not have felt great about the loss, it was a big win for Cheshire as they secured the head-to-head tiebreaker over Bristol. Moving on to Sunday, the Knicks faced Surrey at home and put on an absolutely unreal shooting display. 23 made threes, a franchise record for the Knicks, and tied the record for the most three-pointers in any single game. And the most mental part was that it was efficient, man. 23 of 42, 54% from three-point land. I guess when you're in that flow state, you're just flowing. And a massive part of that was Jackson Brenchley shooting 4 for 5 and Skylar White going 7 for 12 behind the arc. Some of the ones, though, that they shot felt absolutely unreal and felt like they had absolutely no right to go in. Absolute heat check threes. But I guess that just talks to the philosophy of the Cheshire Phoenix. They're living by the three and they will potentially die by the three as well. And on a night like tonight, you really can't see many teams being able to withstand them. Cheshire also did a great job finding the defensive weaknesses. And by that, I mean they were really picking on the less mobile players for the Surrey side in Timothy Nwanko and Hayden Ling. And when they had their size mismatches, they were able to mix in some really crisp passing to make sure they got the open shots. 33 assists on the night, a huge amount to like. Personally, I think Cheshire have done enough now to lock up that second place in the SLB standings. They've played 24 games already with only 8 games left. They have 3 games that they should win over Caledonia and Newcastle, 2 tricky games against the Lions, and then matchups with Bristol and Leicester will decide their fate. But in terms of head-to-head tiebreakers, they're well ahead of the other teams at this point, and they have games and wins in hand. A team that I have a lot less confidence in is my own Sheffield Sharks. Splitting games this weekend with a win over Caledonia, which should be expected at this point, and then an energy-sapping loss to the Bristol Flyers on Sunday. But outside of the games themselves, the Sharks also made some roster moves. Just a week after Atiba Lyons said that he would go out and sign the first thing that he saw, the Sharks have signed Faro Aliozic. And if this was 5 years ago, dude, I would be pumped. But it's not. It's 2026. And in terms of on-court production, how is Pharaoh giving you any more than Deloach was? He's definitely a big body that's really good at setting screens, but he's not stretching the floor. He's not overly athletic going towards the rim. And defensively, he doesn't provide you much verticality and presence. And I saw on Sunday, Bristol already hunting him on the switch in that pick and roll. I wanted to give, the Sharks the benefit of the doubt that maybe this was about maturity, about winning culture, bringing the team together, a little bit of leadership. But after beating the worst team in the league, and I think it's fair to say as well, a team that didn't want Pharaoh to come back to them this year, after he scored some final points in the fourth quarter, he turns towards the bench, starts crowing, and we heard from multiple fans that he was grabbing his junk, letting them know what he was about. It does inspire me with confidence that he's the guy who's going to come in and help elevate their professionalism and their team-first mentality. Look, he's not taking shots from key guys, but he's also not raising your ceiling particularly. Unlike Cheshire, you'd say that Sheffield's remaining games are a lot more challenging. And if I'm honest, a lot of these guys just don't look particularly together out there. Rodney Chapman in particular, I'm really interested if he as an individual thought he would be this healthy, this quick, this season. Obviously, last season he hurt his knee and the Sheffield Sharks stuck by him while he was rehabbing. And I think that loyalty that Sheffield showed, Rodney Chapman is now repaying by staying with them for a second season. And obviously he wanted to get himself back into shape. But I wonder now he's healthy, how much he's thinking about that decision to stay, and whether that's impacting on how frustrated he is with his refs and his teammates, and really some of the visible signs that he's showing on the floor that he doesn't want to be there. I think he still has all the qualities of an MVP player, but he's not shown that in the last 5 games. Only 10.5 points a game, and he's only scored 15 or more points once since November 17th. I care a lot less about what the record is for the next few games for the Sheffield Sharks, as much as I care about what is this team going to look like when we come to the playoffs. Because as a franchise, the fan base deserves a team that is going to fight hard, and it's going to be together and make some noise in the playoffs. If it exits in the first round, then what we have is a team that couldn't come out of the group stages in the trophy, was eliminated at the first opportunity in the SLB Cup, is not going to be particularly high in the championship standings, and potentially could see an early exit from the playoffs. I don't care who you are, that's a pretty abysmal season for a team that had such high hopes coming in and was riding real momentum from winning silverware last year. We also had some really exciting young prospects hitting their first shots in Super League basketball. And it's those feel-good moments that really are inspiring and let me think, actually, this is doing something for a future generation that are coming through. We now head into international break with some really key matchups for the Men GB's team, who are leading their group, and everyone is 1-1, still everything to play for. They'll face a tough Italy side, but they'll have the full force of British fandom behind them, and a great list of potential players in the long list. We're playing with an idea of potentially doing a live stream for the game, so let me know in the comments if it's something you'd be down for. And if you're short on basketball content, we pumped out stuff last week. We had an interview with former NBA draft pick Ryan Richards on his Reba Elite Summer League, and we also spoke to Bristol's 6th man contender, Jonathan Brown. So make sure you don't go without basketball, catch some of our other shows. But until then, catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.